I have 100% had it with this false narrative that has been promulgated by Hillary Clinton supporters and Hillary Clinton surrogates that Bernie Sanders is somehow a racist and has a problem with minorities. Because you have to twist logic you have to contort it to the level that Republicans contort truth, logic, and reason to maintain that false narrative. It simply is not true. False narrative. Yes, it is a false narrative. No, Bernie Sanders does not have a minority problem. He only has a minority problem because the minority vote has been stranglehold by Hillary Clinton. For what reason? For what justification? Why are so many minorities going for Hillary Clinton instead of Bernie Sanders? Well, if you let the media elite, the black media elite, especially, if you let them tell it, it's because Bernie Sanders has a minority problem. In reality, you cannot look at that number, those statistics, and take it outside of the context of name recognition. Number one, there is nobody else as well known in this world, better than no woman, particularly women, than Hillary Clinton. She is one of the most instantly recognizable people in the world. So she has a history with the black community that's not all good. But let them tell it, this 80-20 split that Hillary Clinton has in minority voters suggests that Bernie Sanders actually has some type of race problem. And there is this nefarious narrative, forgive the alliteration, but there's this nefarious narrative that has been pushed by Hillary Clinton supporters ad nauseum. And the facts simply don't bear it out. If you look at the history, and I'll get to what happened last night in a second, but I'm just going to make my case here against Hillary Clinton supporters. And okay, actually, let me come back up for air. This false narrative that has been promoted by Hillary Clinton supporters about Bernie Sanders being some type of racist and having a race minority problem is utter ridiculousness. It does not bear out factually. It does not bear out historically. It does not bear out presently. But yet they have no problem pushing a false narrative because it benefits their candidate. And that is a fundamental problem I have. I don't care who it is. I don't care whose side they're on. I don't care if they're on our side. If you cannot win telling the truth, then you don't need to win. Historically, Bernie Sanders has been consistent. He has stood for the same progressive values since the 60s. Does it matter that he marched with Dr. King? No. What matters is that he himself has been consistent in his values. But Bernie Sanders himself has said whatever he did in the past is whatever. And I agree. No big deal. We don't even have to bring it up. Matter of fact, Bernie Sanders supporters, stop bringing up the fact that he marched with Dr. King. It's irrelevant, in my opinion. It does show context, but we don't live in a world where people like nuance and context, right? They want to know, what has he done lately? Well, good question. I'm glad you asked, because based on what's happening right now today, Bernie Sanders outperforms Hillary Clinton on some of the key issues that are facing the African-American community. And for people to promulgate this lie that he is somehow a racist, my baby girl is still awake. Otherwise, I would call it what it is. How do I know this? Well, I don't have the I guess I do have the graphic. I'll just go to my Twitter page because I shared the graphics today. In terms of issues that are happening today, DeRay McKesson and Campaign Zero put out a 10-point plan on how to end police violence or how to combat police violence. Out from the outset, from day one, when they released it, Bernie Sanders, out of 10 issues, was present on 8 of the issues. Tell me how many Hillary Clinton was present on day one? 2. Or was it 3? Definitely not more than 3. Here it is. I have my graphic right here. 2. I was right the first time. I'll share it with you, those of you who are watching. just in case people think I'm lying. This is from Campaign Zero. You can't necessarily see it because it's small, but you can go to Campaign Zero and look at the archive, and then you can look at the present. This is from August 21st, 2015. When Campaign Zero originally rolled out, Bernie Sanders came out the gate with policy positions, with their policy agenda, with 8 of the 10 issues that were significant based on research for reversing the violence towards people of color by police. So completely forget about the fact that he marched with King. Who cares? They don't care. I don't care. Personally, it's great, right? It's cool. It's irrelevant till today, except to show his consistency. But coming out of the gate without anyone having, and this is actually post, in all fairness, this is post Netroots Nation, which I applauded Black Lives Matter, which I went against some Bernie Sanders supporters, which one of my lowest rated videos ever was because I called out Cenk Uygur because he was trying to call out Black Lives Matter. But at Netroots Nation, Black Lives Matter was spot on. And I knew they were spot on because I knew what they were doing was going to make Bernie Sanders better. And so out of the gate, Bernie Sanders has 8 of 10 policy positions that addresses the 10-point plan brought forward by DeRay McKesson, Netta, and several other people who make up Campaign Zero. Hillary Clinton, 2. So in terms of the issues, now let's be fair to Hillary. She evolved. Here we go. Here's her evolution. Zooming in. You don't want to see my mug. You want to see that. In December of 2015, by that time, Hillary Clinton had evolved. Hillary Clinton has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the 10. If we did it on a grading scale, I used to be a teacher in another life. 6 out of 10 in some counties is a D, in some counties it's an F. But she got 6 out of 10. She's up from a 20% average. She's at a 60% average. She evolved. She's doing much better. Congratulations, Hillary Clinton. You're still weaker than Martin O'Malley, and you're still weaker than Bernie Sanders. And Bernie Sanders actually evolved. He went from 8 to 9. 9 of the 10 issues that were deemed important based on their research, based on the research of Campaign Zero, 9 of the 10 policies to combat violence against minorities was met by Bernie Sanders more than any other presidential candidate. So what has he done for us lately in terms of who's running for president? He is leading the bunch against police violence. That's number 1. Number 2, he doesn't end the story there. He also addresses the economics that are very important to Black lives. And go see the reparations video if you have questions about reparations. I have 3 videos out on Ta-Nehisi Coates and reparations. I don't have to relitigate that here. But what I'm talking about tonight is the fact that there is this nefarious lie that a lot of white Americans, liberals, are manipulating. Some of the Black people are being manipulated, but then there's also other Black media elite who are doing the manipulation of Black people too. Saying that Bernie Sanders is weak on race, Bernie Sanders is a racist, Bernie Sanders has this minority problem, when the actual objective truth is the exact opposite. Bernie Sanders, I don't care if you like him, love him, hate him. Can we at least deal with the facts? I will represent the facts when it comes to Hillary Clinton. I don't have to jade it. I don't have to cover up. I don't have to make it bombastic. I don't have to make it hyperbolic. The facts bear themselves out. And based on the facts, Bernie Sanders is leading the bunch on issues relevant to stopping police brutality against minorities. Not even Martin O'Malley is close. Martin O'Malley gets a D. 7 out of 10. I mean, some counties, that's a C. Let me be fair. That's a C in some counties. So I'm calling out, I am calling out every single Hillary bot, every single Hillary surrogate, every single Hillary drone, every single person who is forwarding this narrative. You cannot combat the objective truth. based on their own policy positions. Now, these are policy positions. It could very well be that Hillary Clinton gets in office and does 10 out of 10. I don't believe that would be the case, because when you start from a position of 6 out of 10, you're likely to go lower than to go up. Just like when you start from the position of being a moderate centrist, then you're not going to go further to the left. You're going to go further to the right. So again, let me repeat what I just said. I'm calling out every single person. And I don't care. You know what? Here's the other thing about it. It's not even just Hillary Clinton direct supporters. It's this convenient scapegoat that people use Bernie Sanders to be. This is what I was talking about last night. 202, you might want to hold tight, because I'm going to go in a little bit more and then I'm going to take calls. Last night, I discussed this reality that it is necessary for people to completely erase the fact that that some of the people that are criticizing Black Lives Matter, some of the people that are criticizing Hillary Clinton, some of these Bernie bots or Sandinistas or Bernie bros are Black people with legitimate qualms against Black Lives Matter and Hillary Clinton and the Black media elite and the Black political elite, the Black Democratic establishment. They have to erase people like that, because it's not easy to call Bernie Sanders a racist when African Americans can make a better case that he is the furthest from racist and Hillary Clinton is actually the problem person who should have a problem with minorities. But that's a little too complicated. You'd get into the weeds. So let's just ignore and pretend like they don't exist. Let's pretend like voices like mine don't exist. And let's only talk about the bad Bernie supporters, the bad white guys who are in the chat rooms, who are on Twitter, who are angry. These angry white guys who do exist, who I've talked about ad nauseum, who you're making it worse for Bernie Sanders. I wish you would shut the hell up. But that doesn't mean that you're not being used just to go against Bernie Sanders, right? And so they use you as this prop, as though Bernie Sanders has an even deeper racist problem, because look at all of these angry white men that are attacking all of these poor Black people. Never mind the fact that I will call every single one of you out on your bullshit. I think my daughter's asleep now. I will be the first to call you out. And so you ignore the Black voices, focus on the white voices, so you can promote this narrative of the racist problem that Bernie Sanders has. No, not a single person can call out the crap that I will call out better than me. And yes, I don't know if you noticed, I'm Black. I am not the Black splainer. I'm not the Black splainer in chief for Bernie Sanders. But what I do is I'm the bullshit caller. I will call you on it. Just like I call out the people in the chat rooms, Bernie Sanders supporters. If you have a problem with something from Black Lives Matter, it is just in your strategic best interest to not engage. I don't care how you feel. I don't care how angry it makes you. It's just in the strategic best interest of Bernie Sanders that you stand down, because you're not going to win that argument. There was a guy arguing with Ta-Nehisi Coates, and I'm like, I really could wade in this conversation and really engage with Ta-Nehisi Coates, but I don't want to come in and save this guy, this white guy, because you know what? You got to know better. You just have to know better on the side of the Bernie bros, right? But the point is, we're not all white. People who have problems with some of the things that Black Lives Matter or people affiliated with Black Lives Matter have subjected Bernie Sanders to, and not equally subjected everyone else to, are not all white. People calling you on the issues, on the bullshit issues, on this racism and this false narrative of a minority problem, they are not all white. I am by far one of the best people to call you on your bullshit, and I am not white. And so I still lay this out to every single person who is either a direct supporter of Hillary Clinton or likes to use Bernie Sanders as a scapegoat to not have to endorse anyone, because you know full well, just like everyone else knows, you don't have to endorse Hillary. You just have to keep Black people from looking at Bernie Sanders. So you don't have to get your hands dirty. You don't have to endorse Hillary. All you have to do is attack Bernie, and the same job gets done. So this manipulative game that people play, using Bernie Sanders as a convenient scapegoat so that they can keep feeding their audience, keep feeding this narrative of white supremacy only from a police brutality perspective, never from an economic perspective. Because if you talked about the economics of white supremacy, then who else are you going to talk about other than Bernie goddamn Sanders? Who else has a policy solution that's even going to remotely get us close to something that's going to empower the Black community economically in the absence of reparations, except for Bernie Sanders? You cannot possibly talk about the economic ramifications of white supremacy and not talk about Bernie Sanders, because Bernie Sanders is the only presidential candidate talking about fundamentally changing the economic paradigm under which the status quo has extracted enormous wealth from the Black community and every other community, particularly the poor and the middle class, of which the Black community is disproportionately represented. But you can't dare talk about the economics of it, because that will force you to talk about Bernie Sanders. So you leave it at this criminal justice reform only. You leave it at this police violence. We're dying in the streets. Yeah, we are. The police violence is absurd. You know, it notwithstanding the fact that it happens in every poor community, but it disproportionately happens in the Black community. It is real. We are not imagining this. However, that is not the totality of the problems in the Black community. And even if it was, Bernie Sanders outperforms Hillary Clinton on addressing the issues that lead to police brutality and the issues and the policies that we can use to undo it. So what you talking about? What are you talking about? So right here, right now, today, it needs to be made clear to anyone who's listening and anyone who shares this, that it is I'm not going to be hyperbolic. It's a lie. It is a straight out lie that Bernie Sanders has a race problem. He only has a race problem in the sense that Hillary Clinton has a stranglehold on the Black community and minority communities for which she does not deserve, based on her history, right? Maybe you don't want to talk about Bernie Sanders' history because that's going to require you to talk about Hillary Clinton's history. It's going to require you talking about her super predator speech. It's going to require you talking about Bill Clinton and the 1994 Criminal Justice Act that they passed that disproportionately affected Black people. So maybe that's why you don't want to talk about the past. You just want to talk about the future and the present. And even in the present, Bernie Sanders outperformed. If it wasn't the case, I would tell you. And then I guess some people are going to say, well, that's not the end all to be all. You know, it's not, Campaign Zero doesn't represent the totality of Black Lives Matter. Then what else you got? Show me your other policies. Show me the reason for which you need to protest Bernie Sanders now. Show me the purpose for that quote unquote action that you guys had last night. Show me the policy that you're fighting for which Bernie Sanders is weak on, that required you to move into action last night. You have all these examples of people who have been assaulted and accosted by the police, by state-sanctioned terror, for which we need remedies, real policy solutions, not just feel-good confessionals about how you benefit from white supremacy and how you're coping with your white guilt. We don't need that. We need policies. And thankfully, and I actually, well, let me not name drop. I spoke with some people about the fact that I knew somewhere in America, in the midst of all the Black Lives Matter actions, somebody had to be sitting behind the scene, working out and crafting real policy statements. And lo and behold, here comes DeRay McKesson and Campaign Zero with real policy goals to fix the very real problem of white supremacy in policing against Black communities and people of color in general. And yet, Even though Bernie Sanders hits 9 out of 10 of those policies compared to Hillary Clinton's 6 out of 10 and Martin O'Malley's 7 out of 10, somehow Bernie Sanders is the one who's weak on race issues.